This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
It is 6 p.m. I will now call to order the October 20th meeting of the Easthampton Conservation Commission. This meeting is being recorded. This meeting of the Easthampton Conservation Commission will be conducted in person and simultaneously via remote participation online to the greatest extent possible. Every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so despite best efforts, we will post on the City of Easthampton website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. Should an interruption occur in which the online meeting ends abruptly, both the in-person and online meetings will not be restarted and all agenda items will be automatically continued to the next scheduled meeting. Are there any public concerns, non-agenda items? Hearing and seeing none, we'll move on to public hearings. Our first order of business is a public hearing for notice of intent filed by the Berkshire Design Group on behalf of the Community Builders, Inc. for a new housing development at 385 Main Street, map 154, lot 32-1. This is Mass DEP file number 151-0330. Introduce yourself for the record, please.
Sure, Jeff Squire from Berkshire Design Group, Community Builders. I think, third-party review issued, I think, their final letter. I think most of all the issues were resolved. No further comment was, his final notes on most of them. We have since also provided a snow storage plan. There's been some additional follow-up, just sort of the loose ends. But I believe, we're really down to the last few bits of information that, we're just discussing with you all, conditions, and just here answer any other questions.
Great. Yeah, that was my understanding as well. Was there anything, Ava, you had on your list to follow up on?
There were no remaining items that we were looking for, other than related to the conditions.
Right. And any remaining lingering questions from members of the commission?
No.
Just the conditions. Okay. Yeah. So do you want to lead us in that discussion?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So I drafted up a set of proposed conditions. Berkshire Design and the Community Builders had an opportunity to review them.
Mm-hmm.
So we had a meeting this morning. There were a couple questions we went back and forth on and wanted to bring to you all. And so let me get to our I'll just highlight a few things that we discussed. One about stockpiling locations. The Community Builders Berkshire Design noted that a lot of the site is buffer zone, but that the stockpile locations will be highlighted on the final approved plans of record, which will be received during the pre-construction meeting or prior to the pre-construction meeting. So condition 8 is our standard one there. Okay, nothing new. So we get, if we're going sort of in order, we come down to the pre-construction conditions. So there was a considerable amount of discussion about the amount of the performance bond and the timing of the performance bond. So typically the commission requires the performance bond posted prior to the issuance of the building permit as a standard pre-construction condition. Mm-hmm. And typically includes all related stormwater infrastructure building. There was a request from the applicant, I can let you describe it, or a request from the applicant to disinclude the earthwork required to build the basins from the amount of the stormwater bond, as the earthwork will be done early in the process, and thus is unlikely to be not completed if the project continues. Do you guys want to say anything more about that?
It was more trying there's certainly some components of this stormwater system that are, very identifiable. The infiltration trenches, those types of structures, the 7-4 bays, any of those hard structures. Some of the larger surface, very shallow surface basins, it was hard to parse apart what earthwork was associated with just that infrastructure compared to the overall grading, because so much of that grading is required to build up the site just for, what's proposed. So, I think it was a combination of, not really understanding where to draw that line and distinguish, site work from, general site work from stormwater facilities, because that's the way the ordinance describes it, as stormwater facilities. And they don't really define facilities. So like I said, some of the, specific items it was easy enough, but, the larger earthwork stuff was, components were a little bit harder to separate out. And so that was, one major piece of it. The other was just understanding, the limitations that, TCD has as an affordable housing developer, that if there's, any consideration for, that as an additional component. I think it took out, I don't know, $70,000 or so of it's hard to read but it was mostly those numbers associated with detention basin 1, detention basin 2, and then the infiltration basin, which are all just really earthwork exercises.
So I guess I'm not fully following. You have dollar values
So in that,
listed for the detention basins. So
that includes what we just made some assumption about earthwork. Some cubic yardage, some amount of earthwork entailed with that detention basin. That line was hard to distinguish, what's construction of the detention basin versus the larger site work, because a lot of that most of that is still being brought in to build out the site. So it was hard to separate out those two. So that number that we've got in that first table was just a guesstimate. It was here's, we put some parameters on it and just estimated what earthwork was just associated with the detention basin. I don't know really, it's hard to say how accurate that is, just because again, it's the entire site is an earthwork exercise. And so the second table on the right excludes those $3 amounts, the detention basin 2, and then the infiltration basin, which again, those specific things were just, those numbers were just for earthwork.
okay. Do you happen to know, Ava, did you get a chance to talk to anybody about how we normally establish those values? Because I know we would always have the detention basins included in the.
Right. I spoke with Diane about it. We did look back in our records, and typically they do assign a dollar value for those. I think the previous city engineer seemed to just have a cubic foot to size of basin ratio, that when back in the day, he would set the stormwater bond amount, and so that was how he would calculate those amounts, which I imagine was also a relatively rough estimate number. But that was Diane's advice to the commission, was just that the precedent is to include a dollar amount for the basins. But she did say, she deferred to advice on how to do that.
And she typically has to review and approve the value of the stormwater bond, correct?
Yeah, and she reviewed the other numbers and said they looked in accordance to her.
But not the detention basin numbers, or she looked at all of them?
She looked at all of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, my recommendation, because of the precedent, is, and because they are critical elements of the stormwater system, would be to include those. And I would presume if it's a $70,000 value, that I don't know what that translates to in the cost of the bond, but it's certainly less than that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I don't know.
I don't know how much a bond actually ends up costing for $1 million or whatever, but so that would be my recommendation, would be to go with the value on the left, assuming that everything checks out with Diane. Do others have thoughts?
Do we have any sense of what it would be according to Jack's old calculation of cubic footage?
Yeah, to Dan's,
Would it have been a lot less?
It would have been a lot less, based on how he did it. I mean, I have, when I was looking for a project where Cassie actually saved the calculation, because I think a lot of them were discussed in hearings or like just the amount was passed along, but I don't have documentation. One I found for the cemetery, 109 Everett, he did $2 per cubic foot. And so I quickly looked, but the infiltration basin is pretty small, so that comes up to significantly less than $30,000. But I don't know how Berkshire Design calculated those numbers either.
Yeah, did you use cubic yardage or?
It was cubic yardage. Yeah, we anticipate, again, it's all fill, it's fill material. So it's, cost trucking and then moving it
Right.
around and shipping it on site.
Is that so different from other building projects? Don't you always have to kind of?
I think this site is unique in that it's mostly fill that's being brought in. We've got to fill everything up to clear groundwater, separate that groundwater. It isn't, there is a little bit of, grading within some of those basins, but the basins are mostly, built from fill. The bottom of the basins are rather roughly existing grade. So it was more to just say that everything in the site's got to come up, and so we just, wrap some boundary around those, and
Right. Yes. I think that seems reasonable.
Which?
The way that they
They
calculate
came
it.
up with that.
Yeah.
I'm okay with your decision.
I'm okay with it, but just being a little bit of a newbie, I'm not understanding. This is for a performance bond. What additional risk is the city taking on if the performance bond is reduced by the amount proposed?
So the intent is that the performance bond is purchased, and if something goes haywire, say the contractor or the applicant go bankrupt in the middle of the project and disappear. Right? I don't think we've ever had that happen, but certainly it happens. That the money is there in a bond, and that bond would then be cashed in to build the stormwater system and make sure that it gets adequately
Okay,
constructed. And so we want to make sure that there's enough money in that bond to build the whole system.
okay. And so the case that's being made is because there's so much fill coming in, we don't need the bond amounts for things that are largely built out of the fill. Am I following the argument correctly?
The argument is really just that it's difficult to say what's part of building the stormwater system and what's part of just shaping the site.
Yeah.
Because you're moving earth around for lots of different purposes.
And I think the argument too is about the order of operations too, that the earthwork, that the construction will happen of the basins will happen early before all the impermeable surfaces are added. But I guess the counter argument to that is that if the basins aren't functioning, they'll have to be redesigned. And that might happen later on
Yeah.
in the process.
Or if, again, maybe unlikely, but if the contractor went bankrupt right after they moved all that fill in, somebody would have to move it all out or do something altogether different with it. Right? So that would cost money.
What is encompassed in the line 10, the enhanced biofiltration?
That is the biofiltration filter at the edge of the parking lot, the northern edge, but it's that long linear
Okay.
biofilter. So
Got it.
there's a little bit more design detail with that. There's actually quite a bit of design detail.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, is your client kind of say it's like a hardship somehow to actually just do the?
Well, as with any project, tying up, an additional $75,000, at the start of construction for an affordable housing developer is certainly, as you can appreciate, a challenge.
But you wouldn't be tying up $75,000, right? The cost of the bond is not the full price.
I guess it depends on the final form, whether it's it could be I've understood it could be a credit, line of credit, it could be a number of different forms, the bond, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know enough about the nuances of the bond itself to know what the savings.
My understanding is that it's similar to insurance.
Sure.
You don't you can be insured for $3 million,
Right?
but you're paying 2,000,
Sure.
right? So it doesn't equate to real dollars, in my understanding.
That's
Good, thank you.
Further discussion?
Okay.
So while we stay on the bond conversation, the other topic related to the timing of the posting of the bond, a request was made somewhat similar in form to the conversation we had about Ferry Street a little bit ago around posting the bond within 60 days of the building permit being issued rather than as a pre-construction condition prior to the building permit being issued. And I'm curious how we want to address this as a commission. I think I have had some conversations within the department that we anticipate this will keep coming up as a building permit is a common condition to the rest of the financing for affordable housing coming into order. So it's obviously been the final sort of stopgap the commission has used. Of course, remembering that we always have the ability to issue an enforcement order if a project moves out of compliance with its order of conditions.
Right.
But
Can we do I think on Ferry Street, we ended up adding a demolition permit as part of the pre-construction.
right.
Can we do the same thing here? Because presumably you have demolition to complete.
That's really, there isn't much, and there's a little bit of figuring to do, but there's no building.
There's no demolition permit for the garage or the asphalt, none of that.
That's,
It's just an open field.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm thinking about I'm on the wrong project in my head. There is no demolition.
You're on the other Jeff Squire project.
Yes, I've seen you too many times, Jeff.
I know,
Sorry.
that's a good thing, good thing.
Right. Okay. Yeah, so that doesn't help us.
So the request was made from the applicant for condition 24 to read condition 24, which is our final building permit condition, that just to have it read something like, an issuance of a building permit shall not be approved by the Conservation Commission until all pre-construction requirements are met, with the exception of the performance bond, which shall be posted within 60 days of the building permit's issuance.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that with Ferry Street, the commission was concerned about precedent. I understand that's still a concern.
Does 60 days get us what's needed? I would imagine that this whole process of financing takes a long time in many cases.
Yeah, and that's something that I would have to defer to Julie or others about, just because I don't know. Yeah, and that was part of the conversation this morning at the meeting. Just the financing process can take a little bit of time depending on all the different sources.
Yeah, I'm happy to answer. So yes, it takes longer than 60 days, however, not from the issuance of the building permit. That's usually, happens much closer to the time of the closing on all the financing. So 60 days feels like an adequate, safe amount of time to have the closing happen.
Okay. All right. I think the other situation we were asked to help navigate, they were still applying for funding or grants or something and needed the building permit to do that, but that's not your scenario here.
No.
Okay.
No, we would anticipate having all of our financing in hand before ever applying for building permit.
Okay.
And so that means the other pre-construction requirements in terms of actually the site being ready to go will be in place prior to the building permit being issued.
Okay.
So I guess I'm not quite understanding the need for the change. If you already would have the financing lined up,
We would
we
not have the financing in hand. It would be like you're closing on a house, right? You're going to buy the house and it's going to happen in 15 days, but you don't have the money in your account yet.
I see.
Ready to do that. So it's that kind of condition. So these projects need, we receive financing at the time of closing. That money we would use to purchase that performance bond. That money doesn't exist prior to that moment.
I see. Can we say that we could issue it? But that no building would actually start until we got the bond. I don't know if that makes any difference, but
I don't think that it gives us any more certainty than having the pre-construction condition that the performance bond be paid. Right, because then we're still just going on the words in the order, whereas having the building permit is a concrete, like you have to have this sign off before anybody is going to start construction.
We have before had, like, up until the last minute of the pre-construction meeting, had a draft stormwater bond, right? Like an unsigned stormwater bond. So I imagine that could probably be acquired. So presumably that we would know that the bank was, or the bonding company was ready to go.
Yeah, I think we could do that, along with what you had already described as language. I would be comfortable with that if others are.
Yes. And I do think we could also make it clear that, this is the affordable housing element of this is what makes this a unique circumstance. And should this come up in future conversations with other developers, it's not as relevant the lineup of financing shouldn't be as relevant for a non-affordable housing developer.
And we do already say pretty clearly that no work can commence before these conditions are met, correct? And then the performance bond is one of them. Yeah. Okay.
Excellent. All right. These are our typical, everything's pretty standard here. Limit of work marked out, all the basin locations fenced off so they don't get compacted, including the detention basin. The weekly and quarter-inch rain event monitoring. We got into some conversations this morning about the language around stabilization in here. And I believe it was down here in 40 and 42. Yeah. So this, within 14 days of completion of construction, all disturbed areas in the completed portion of the site shall be permanently stabilized with vegetative cover, using sufficient topsoil to assure long-term vegetative growth. So I believe there was language that they were hoping to change. So the concern was if a piece of the project is finished at a time when vegetation can't grow. If there could be language in here that allows for that. So something like provided weather conditions allow within 14 days of completion.
Didn't it say that? It has to be stabilized in some fashion. So if you can't vegetate it, then that's where the other stabilization methods come into play.
Right. And that is,
I believe that's pretty clear already, but we can tweak it if it isn't. If the season is not appropriate for plant growth, exposed surfaces shall be stabilized by other appropriate erosion control measures to prevent soils from being washed by rain or flooding. May include but not be limited to hydroseeding, straw mats, jute netting, or other biodegradable blanket material, sod, or other commission-approved method.
totally. I think I think the point that was made was that 40 has to do with like permanent stabilization, whereas 42 has to do with temporary stabilization, like the idea that it's for a period of time is going to be destabilized versus the final condition. I wonder if we should include just some of the language. Like within 14 days of completion of construction on a given portion of the project, all disturbed areas shall be permanently stabilized with vegetative cover using sufficient topsoil, or utilize temporary stabilization methods until permanent stabilization with grass can be reached. Does that make sense? Do you think it's
I
unnecessary?
think it's unnecessary. I mean, the 40 says within 14 days of completion, you should do this. And then 42 says if soils are going to be disturbed for longer than 14 days, you need to do this. So I think that is the answer to if it can't be done in 14 days.
Yeah, and I think the recollection, and just reading when we read that the first time, I think the interpretation was that within 2 weeks of the completion of any stormwater component or construction. So one of the detention basins, they finished grading that. Within 2 weeks, they had to permanently seed that with, whatever we've got proposed for seeding mix was the requirement, which didn't seem all that feasible with this project, given where everything is, and that's all going to be, they'll do all that permanent seeding at the end.
Mhm.
So as long as that's the intent, I think that's fine. It was more just, we didn't want
Yeah.
to bring a hydro seeder to do, this little area and then stay away.
Understood. Yeah, that wouldn't be an issue.
Okay.
We just don't want to see things left
Absolutely.
without something to stabilize them for a 2-week period if they're not being actively worked.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think you're right. I think this line really covers all conditions. There's a question about this condition around water quality. So this is a standard condition I've seen in some of the Conservation Commission's orders of conditions. And the applicant was looking for some clarity on this. How we've measured this before, if we've done any kind of pre-analysis.
So it's really primarily about turbidity.
Mhm.
And that should be covered in more detail in the SWIP and the requirements under your NIPD's permit. So we typically don't put anything specific on here. I think isn't there some turbidity testing now required as part of your SWIP and NIPD's on construction?
They're in certain sites, yeah, and I
Yeah.
forget what that.
So if that applied
Yep.
under your NIPD's permit, obviously it would
Yep.
be part of how we would interpret this, but we have not, I don't think we've ever had specific requirements for testing.
Okay,
And turbidity would be the primary thing we'd be looking for.
sure.
And this is sort of a fallback to say, if we're seeing muddy water coming out of your site, we're
Understood.
gonna enforce.
Yeah, it was just trying to understand
Yeah.
what what are you measuring, when,
Yeah.
how frequently, all of it. So,
Should we use the word turbidity anywhere in here?
I guess I'd be inclined not to, because say somebody dumps concrete, right? Or dumps paint, or it's any of that stuff. It's just sort of a catch-all.
Right. We could issue an enforcement order to that, just under the Wetlands Protection
Yeah.
Act as well,
Yeah.
not related to this order of conditions.
Right.
But was there concern about 47? Did I see? We didn't discuss it this morning, but I thought I perhaps saw that in the.
it was just more of I think a feasibility question. All of this runoff from the parking lot, as an example, shoots to that biofiltration filter. And so I can appreciate that it's going to be kind of challenging to redirect that sheet flow to a different structure somewhere else that isn't the intended location for it. So just trying to understand how.
So what we would not want happening, and the reason that this condition is there, is we don't want to see muddy surfaces covered in construction mess washed into your filter, and now your filter doesn't function, because that's not good for you or us, because you're just going to be coming back to rebuild it.
Understood.
So this tells the contractor you can't
Yeah,
let that
those
happen.
until,
Yeah,
sure. Yeah, understood.
I would argue it's a protection for you as much as for
And
others.
that's fine. Yeah, I think there are other, components in the SWIP and other pieces that touch on that. So that's certainly, I think we have a lot of our standard notes reference that as well. So it's.
Great. This was a suggested condition from Bucky, getting into the makeup of the basins, that the bioretention soil media mixture should be tested by an independent lab to ensure the required components, including the water treatment, residual / iron filings, are present. Is that
If there's a specific media that's required in that, the biofiltration filter, we would typically have a nutrient or SIP analysis, whatever is required of the manufacturer is what we would defer to. I don't know the specifics of it, which is maybe where that, iron filing requirement is coming from, but that would typically, but it's a proprietary, filter system. And so we would defer to the manufacturer's spec to make sure that whatever media is being used matches their spec. So if it's
And this is just saying we want a lab test documenting that it does in fact meet the spec.
sure. Yeah. And we would do that as part of the construction, submittal process anyway.
everything's standard in here. And then this was another suggestion by Bucky. So there was concern about the one detention basin that has a bottom of the basin close to groundwater.
Yep.
And so the question was about, or the suggested condition was to just ensure that those detention basins are not permanent puddles of water. It's not a standard BMP to ensure that detention basins, because they're not infiltration basins, are fully infiltrating. I wonder if we want to give them more time than 72 to 96 hours.
I think 72 hours is about mosquito breeding.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that would be probably the number to stick with.
Okay.
Because that's when it can become a problem. Or a perceived problem.
And then this condition about annual reporting on that was a suggestion by him.
Do you have any concerns about that?
I don't think so. No.
Great.
Makes sense
Awesome.
to me.
For the, did it say for 3 years?
Mm-hmm.
For 3 years, yep. Great, stabilized slopes, non-invasive plant species plantings. Invasive plant species monitoring and management. Buffer zone lawns. This was a condition that Commissioner Busa and I discussed. This commission used to have a standard in perpetuity condition regarding only using organic fertilizers, pesticide, herbicides within the buffer zone, and it's just become a bit of a challenge related to projects simultaneously trying to do invasives management and comply with their order. And so we discussed that what the commission was trying to get at with that. We thought what the commission was trying to get at with that was just to ensure that there isn't unnecessary amounts of nutrients being and pesticides being put into these systems. And so we thought we would target that going after the fertilizers on lawns as kind of the key over abundance of nutrients.
So it makes sense to folks.
Yeah.
It does.
So less concerned with, if people want to fertilize particular like plantings, like against their house or something. that's usually something that's done in pretty limited amounts, whereas lawns, you tend to get the broad cascade and over fertilization.
Yeah.
So kind of targeting the real issue more than the sort of broad sweeping condition that we had previously, that we've run into issues trying to make sense of after the fact.
We have to also add the pesticides and fungicides where they're stored, or you're just saying they shouldn't be using them. I mean, do we have to put that in at all?
So the problem is if we want people to treat invasives, they have to use pesticides. So before we said you have to manage your invasives in perpetuity, but also you're not allowed to use pesticides in resource areas in the buffer zone. And so those two were in direct conflict. So that's where we were trying to get at, what was the real intent of our no pesticides and herbicides and fertilizer condition? And I think largely it was about limiting nutrients.
And we have this condition about organics of all of those could be approved by the commission. And that has just been a tremendous headache because of the arguments over what's organic and also the complications of finding organic products that are doing the things that the people want them to do.
So within that, we don't have to have where they're storing it on site.
We never specified where they were storing it.
Okay.
And typically they wouldn't, usually somebody's coming in and doing that and they're not storing the material on site.
Right. And an invasive plant species monitoring and management plan will be part of the pre-construction requirements as typical. So that'll outline what they find for invasives on the site currently and where and what they're planning on treating.
Is that what you meant? Where they're putting the invasives or where they're storing the
No,
chemicals?
if they're like we had other projects.
Yeah.
They were gonna do their own.
Oh, right. The
Chemicals.
ongoing maintenance. Yeah.
Yeah, so we
Right.
wanted to know where they were storing the pesticides, the fungicides, and the fertilizers.
Mhm.
That was my question, because I didn't see anything about storage of that or any hazardous
Yeah.
materials.
Don't we have hazardous? Yeah, no fuel, oil, or other pollutants may be stored in any resource area of the buffer zone.
So that would be considered a pollutant.
Well, that's a construction condition, but we don't have jurisdiction to stop somebody from keeping a bottle of Roundup in their garage if they happen to be in the riverfront area. That would be dramatically overreaching. So unless they had large chemical storage areas, then there was going to be a large amount of it. Maybe we would have a conversation about that, but otherwise that wouldn't really be a thing that would be within our.
So if something came up, they would come back to us. If they were gonna do it themselves, whoever's running the area, they wanted to keep it and store it on site somewhere there.
If they were going to have, I think if they were going to have enough volume of pesticides for it to be a concern for us, they would fall under other permits
Okay.
about chemical storage and I'm forgetting what that would even be, but there are other permits that dictate that kind of thing.
Okay.
So that brings us to the end of the order of the special condition sheet specifically. Did commissioners have other thoughts on conditions?
We covered all the ones that I wanted to touch on.
I read it this afternoon and it held together for me.
You mentioned like 3 or 4 of them, but did you end up including all of Bucky's suggested?
Oh yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, let's take a look at those. I think some of them are no longer relevant. Okay. All right, so this first one, if less than 12 inches of freeboard, I believe you eliminated the freeboard situation because now there's a flow pipe, so that's no longer relevant.
You got number 2.
We got number 2, and then 3 and 4 are standard for us. There will be an O&M plan. That's part of the pre-con conditions.
And 6 is in there.
Yeah, so I think it's 5. I'm not sure. Encompasses that.
That really should be something that gets baked into the O and M plan.
Right. Okay. So maybe we don't need it as a standalone condition in here.
We would typically, yeah, have protections in place until everything's stabilized, so there shouldn't be any, yeah, that would be our.
Well, and if that event did go into the wetlands, wouldn't that then be a violation?
It would, yeah.
I'm just curious about the pesticide thing. I don't remember what the condition, how it was worded before, but I'm just curious if we had said no inorganic, no non-organic pesticides except in the treatment of invasives, would that still have left the door open for us to have to approve a lot of?
I mean, it only didn't come up very often, but when it did, remember we got into that, like,
Yeah.
trying to review with people whether something counted as an organic pesticide, and it was like, I mean, it's really not our expertise in the most remote way. And the real issue, I guess the one that they came to us with wasn't even pesticides. I think it was fertilizer.
Fertilizers, yeah.
So that's the one that people tend to, and it's all nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. It doesn't matter what source it is, it's the volume.
Right.
So
But I think
this
this,
gets at that more root issue.
right, and this condition, by not utilizing sprinklers except in the original establishment of vegetation, I think you can sort of, keeps going, goes the extra mile to ensure that stuff isn't getting washed in.
Oh, okay, that's what that's about. Yeah, that makes sense.
Extra nutrients aren't getting washed in.
So I had 2 other questions. So, in 11, 26, and 30, you have in there about the fueling. What about tracking pads or washing the vehicles?
Vehicle washes would be covered under NIPD's. And I think we already have a construction entrance approved on the plans for track off, right?
And I believe that was a discussion with Bucky. Wasn't there a piece about a tracking pad?
There is a tracking pad on the plans, I know. Trying to recall what the discussion was, but I know we have one on the plans.
Is that your question about the
Yes.
tracking pad?
Because I was just looking through that.
Yep.
I didn't see it. The other one is for the stormwater basins. Are they fenced? Are any of these basins gonna be fenced?
I don't think so. No.
They're very shallow.
Okay.
So you were thinking about the 6-inch.
Yes.
Yes, we don't have to worry about that.
And then the only other thing is the snow storage plan. Did we go over that?
Oh, I don't think we have reviewed it. I can pull it up. We can take a look at it.
Can I just ask one quick question, just back to that buffer zone, the lawn planting question real quickly? And just thinking in this case, because I hadn't picked up on the, or sprinklers during original establishment. What happens during a season like this season where, if they need to seed or stabilize in August and there's no.
Except in the original establishment.
Oh, except in,
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
yeah.
Except in the original.
Yeah, so use the sprinklers to get them in, but you don't get a green lawn in the.
Yeah, that's fine. I was reading that the other way, thinking that was gonna be hard.
Okay, snow storage. Are the dash lines all grading or is that?
Yes.
Okay. So what are we looking at?
So the red highlighted areas are, would be the most obvious areas to place snow. It's primarily going to be the driving surfaces, the driveway and the parking lot. A little bit associated with the, front entry and the walkways, but there's quite a bit of space, around the parking lot, around the periphery to store snow.
And it looks like you're leaving open a path for drainage into the basin there.
Any of the, yeah, so we've kept it out of, there's the biofiltration at the head end of the parking lot. It's out of that and it's out of any of the stormwater components. Yeah.
And how close is it to that wetland that's on the road?
Closest is probably, where your cursor where it was, just Ava's, that location there. Which if I had to guess, I'd say is 15, 20 feet or so.
Will there be salt and sand thinking about?
I mean, most of the salt, most folks use, liquid de-icers now, and, salt isn't used as often as it used to be. I think,
Sure, this wetland gets its fair share of salt from Route 10 right there.
Yeah, sure it does.
So do we need a condition for the icer or
For the level of salt in the mix or something. I mean, it is already getting a lot from the road, but 15 to 20 feet's not that far. Or maybe it is. Maybe it's clinical.
yeah, just for perspective, I think that, that pile, that shape, that polygon is closest to the wetland, at its widest is maybe 40, 45 feet, just to give you, so it's quite a bit, space there.
Oh, I thought you just said it was 15.
From the edge of that, what we're showing from that point of the wetland to the closest, where it touches the red, I'm guessing is the shortest distance is probably 15 feet.
Yeah, I guess I'm wondering if it seems like it'd be more likely to put more snow in the polygon at that one than the other one.
I wouldn't disagree.
Could we potentially shrink the size of the area available for snow to get it away from the wetland and focus on that area that's further?
No issue with that. Yeah, it's usually not enough space shown, so we were just trying to
Yeah.
err on the side of caution.
And that also looks like it gets us into a flatter area where it's gonna have more time to kind of
Yes.
settle and clean up whatever's left behind.
Yeah, I would imagine most of that stuff on the right of the drive as you come in would just be from the driveway.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like that'd be a pretty limited pile that would make sense to put there.
Great. Okay, so I'll look for a revised one that has some different polygon.
All right. Any other questions? Comments?
No,
I think we're ready to. Anything that we still, so we've got pending revised snow storage plan as just discussed.
Yep.
And Diane does need to look at the bond again, or she's all good?
I think she's good with the amount
Okay,
of the higher amount.
okay, great. So then I think we're ready to issue an order if folks are making such a motion.
I move that we issue an order of conditions with the conditions as we have reviewed and discussed here. Yeah, we'll call it good.
All those in favor? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. You all.
Yeah.
Our next order of business is a public hearing for an abbreviated notice of resource area delineation filed by Fleetwood Environmental on behalf of Sovereign Builders, Inc. for map 120, parcel 18 at Torrey Street and 14 Pine Hill Road. This is Mass DEP file number 1510336.
Awesome. Okay, so I think we do have David Cameron here, who filed this ANRAD, but I'll just introduce the peer review letter. I made the decision that Steve didn't have to come tonight, given the results of the letter, and thus saved the applicant a little bit of funds in that. So I was out in the field with him and reviewed it. He had done a solid amount of preliminary LiDAR and aerial. He knew the soils of the whole site really well. So he had done quite a bit of ahead of time material review. And then we really sort of scraped the site, moving past, not focusing so much on the wetland system that we knew about, the riverfront area and the associated BBW. Though we did spend more time over in wetland 7. And yeah, he had some good observations of the site. I learned a lot about gravel mining from him, which was great. We took quite a few soil samples as we went. Yeah, he taught a lot about how typically they would stop a good couple feet above groundwater level when they were doing these kinds of mining sites. That probably where we are on the gravel zone indicates that's how far down they dug until they knew that they would be getting into groundwater a few feet below. And we did find some of those FAC and FAC wetland plants that I found on my initial site visit, speckled alder, red maple. But the conclusion was that those were early successional pioneer species. We spent some time at the discharge culvert, this suspicious gushing stream. It was still gushing in September, which it was gushing when we were out there with David in July. We're in a drought. Steve's suspects that it's intercepted groundwater, because otherwise, like if there's really no evidence that it's draining any kind of surface water. And yeah, and it's gushing so dramatically in a drought too, which would indicate that it's not related to surface water conditions.
Right. Yep.
We went over to some of the IDWs in Northampton. Looked like they were all good. We did find one small area of compacted soils, but it was over in Northampton with hydric characteristics. We saw some typical redox features. Okay. So his conclusion was that the delineation is sound as it is. He was curious about wetland 7 if it exhibits any vernal pool characteristics in the spring. It's not hard to know how much of a confined basin it really results in. I'm curious, David, if you were there in that right time of year, if you saw any vernal pool characteristics in wetland 7.
Excuse me. The only time I was there when I actually saw standing water in that depression would have been, it would have been before the drought started. Might have been like May, June timeframe. I didn't see, egg masses or spermatophores. I was not out there at night when you would typically hear breeding courses. Same thing as the potential vernal pools that are mapped on the Northampton side of the line, which it sounds like you and Steve checked out. Those are actually mapped by Natural Heritage as potential vernal pools, and they look like they have all the requisite characteristics to provide vernal pool habitat. But I walked through that area when there was standing water in the spring, and I did not see one frog or salamander. I was actually quite surprised. So Yeah, I don't know to tell you about wetland 7, whether or not it's actually vernal pool habitat or not.
I think it could be something to check up on in the spring, to go back out on the site and take a look. But
So
um,
no recommended changes of any kind.
so the delineation as submitted was agreed to be correct.
Okay. Questions?
Since this is Easthampton and Northampton, does Northampton have to be apprised of the findings on Easthampton's side, or that's up to them to speak to or get the information?
So we would have jurisdiction to approve the delineation on the Easthampton parcels. They'll have to approve the delineation for the Northampton parcels. But I know that you've been going back and forth with Sarah, and there is an ongoing conversation between the two cities.
And they did issue an ORAD. It is honestly an interesting jurisdictional question of like, David, you haven't applied, done an NOI yet for Northampton, have you? No.
No, not yet.
I mean, it would be like the riverfront area. If we were still reviewing our riverfront area obviously projects into Northampton. How that all works, like when the buffer zones of the actual resource areas that are in other towns project into other towns.
And the culvert is in Northampton?
It's in Northampton, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, theoretically, I think if Northampton had already approved and issued an ORAD that had a buffer or a riverfront that we didn't agree with, that their delineation is set on their property.
Right. So they would have approved the riverfront line from our perennial stream. So if we had moved that flag out, it wouldn't have bumped the riverfront area on their property.
If they had already issued, I think what they had issued and approved would stand for that number of period. Yeah.
Interesting.
I think.
If they issued an ORAD already and then you found this compacted soil area that's on their side, are we in any way like obligated to let them know that in case they want to change anything?
They can't change anything.
It's too late.
That ORAD is locked in for 3 years. Yeah.
So presumably they already know about it. Hopefully did their due diligence to.
Well, we were only looking at those things on their side to understand how they would influence where we would put buffers on our side, right? So we don't have any jurisdiction whatsoever over the Northampton side. All we can do is call up the same as a concerned citizen would and say, hey, do you know this?
Right.
And I have not reviewed Northampton's wetland ordinance closely enough to know if that section would meet their qualifications of an IVW. It would not be jurisdictional under the act because it doesn't have an associated stream with it.
Do they have a local ordinance?
They do.
Okay.
Other questions, discussion?
I'm fine.
All right. It's been a while since we've issued an ORAD. Do we have any choices? Like we do
So
within our
there's a print copy in that file on top of the file. I don't believe you have any choices. Well, you
We're just
can
issuing, right?
Yeah, you can amend it.
Modify it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So what we would be looking to do is to issue an order of resource area delineation, confirming that we have found the boundaries described on the reference plans to be accurate for BVW and Riverfront. Somebody
And
wants
it's an
to
ORAD, not an ANRAD.
ANRAD is the request form. ORAD is the order of resource area.
Okay, so I move that we issue a order of resource area delineation and specifically noting that we found the delineations marked were accurate and acceptable.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
I
So moved.
And then I'll go on here stuff.
Where's Jay when I need him?
And then I think you guys can sign, can sign
Yeah.
that right there. Okay, so David, I will issue this and get it to you. I'll send it certified mail to you or to Todd.
You could send it certified mail to Todd. Let's make sure you've got the correct address there. That's the new address. You can send it certified mail to Todd, but would you mind having a scanned copies, PDF version emailed to me?
Yep, absolutely.
That'd be great.
Awesome. And is that address, the Westfield address, that's incorrect? Is that what you're?
That is correct.
That is correct.
It's correct.
Okay, great. All right, excellent. Okay, so I'll mail the certified copy to Todd. I'll email it to you. There will be funds returned to you from escrow. So I'll get those, or to Sovereign Builders. So I'll return those funds.
Great.
Do we print too? You just want signature.
I think this one just looks for signatures. It doesn't have a separate column for it.
Great. Okay, and then this will need to be recorded at the registry. So the copy will be brought to the registry. Excellent.
All right.
Great. Thank you so much, David.
Thanks very much, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Have a nice night.
You never get to return escrow funds. That's so fun.
All right. We have no requests for certificates of compliance. Do we have any updates on enforcement actions?
I thought I would give you guys an update on 50 Florence, where it stands. I did kind of an extensive site visit a little bit ago to evaluate the extent of invasives now that we're essentially a year into treatment. And I feel like I've run into this before. I would love to be able to show you guys 2 screens at once for this site. But we'll just go through it. So I'll show you guys some images in a second, but I evaluated, I walked the perimeters, finding this was their original invasive plant species monitoring and management plan map. So they produced this as a pre-construction condition. And these were the areas where they highlighted where invasive species were found. And so they're required to manage invasives throughout their site, but these were the areas where they were specifically like, there were invasives here and we managed them. So a couple peculiar things. The places with the zones with check marks I found were taken care of. I didn't find any invasive species on site. Mostly those are now covered with solar arrays. The main peculiar thing I found was that I believe the fence, this limit of work fence, originally was in the red here, but I believe what they did is they actually extended it and they cut through this knotweed clump right here. And I don't know why they did that, but I'm fairly certain if you look on the aerials and the satellite imagery that is what they did. And that's why there's a big chunk of invasive knotweed right in here that they're like slashed right through of, which is going to be a real pain for them to manage because per their order, they're not required to manage invasives outside of their limit of work lines. So they're not required to manage them over here, but they are anything that's on the inside of their fence.
The question. We saw the picture and there was invasives on one side and the other. And we couldn't figure out if they had just started growing on the other side of the fence. So you're saying you think they cut through them and fenced?
I think in this array, that's the case. Are you certain you're thinking of the same spot on the site? Because I know there's also down
is it another
here.
one?
Are those the other knotweed clumps?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, the ones, the trio down there are the ones that I distinctly remember walking past.
Yeah. It's really quite odd to me that they threw their fence through there.
Yeah.
Just for like a visual.
Would that be a change that they didn't get permitted?
Where they like reassigned their
Their limit of work. Say change the limit of work is not.
Yeah, because I don't remember them saying we're putting the fence over here. We're
Yeah,
going through, because
yeah. Yeah.
Have barbed wire on it?
Yeah, it has barbed wire on the top. And you can see the fence kind of disappears here
Yeah.
into the invasives. This is like the invasive clump. You can't see the fence, but it's in there. Yeah. So that's an odd situation. It doesn't seem to me when I was out there that they've started treating those invasives. I think they've been really tackling the ones in array 4, the ones down here. Which I did see substantial improvement. I'll show you guys some images of that. I did just take the opportunity to walk all the fences. I found, invasives sort of pressing, like over in this corner, there's multiflora growing up onto the fence, pushing against.
Is that not weed in that picture?
This right here. Yeah,
It all is.
it all is.
Okay.
Yeah, what this is.
It's hard to tell.
It's hard to tell. And then down here, and this is going to be a
Are
little.
we seeing what you're seeing?
Oh, no, you're not. Sorry. Thank you. Yeah. So there was a little bit of multiflora on this gate over here, like growing up against the gate here. And yeah, and then down here, this is going to be a little tough because we don't have their silt fence up here anymore. So exactly where the limit of work ends is going to be a little bit challenging, but this is a real infestation of knotweed that backs into the entrance of this one.
So my take would be that knowing that they're required to manage invasives on their site in perpetuity, I would like to see them not quibble over where the silt fence was and treat
Right.
that whole stand, because otherwise it's just coming back in and causing them to have to treat longer.
Yeah.
So same with the one that the fence cuts through.
They should
I mean,
just treat
it's
the
in
whole
their
stand.
property. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
are they actually treating it or are they just hacking it back?
No, they're definitely treating it. So this is the infestation. Array 4 is back here. This is like along the entrance to it. This is the same. Array 4 is back here. We're just getting closer. Okay. Invasives. Okay. All right. So here you go. This was, do you remember that image that when we issued the enforcement order of all the knotweed growing under the arrays? That's the same area.
And that is slash or all just dead?
It's dead.
Okay.
It was dead.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah, it was cool. And here is one of those major piles in the map.
Yep.
And
Definitely better.
it's definitely they're definitely going at it.
And does it turn out that these are actually big piles of junk?
It looks like there's material in there. Yep. And here's another one. So, I mean, I think it will really take a few years of treatment here, which they've proposed, but it's definitely making an improvement. Here's another good angle on that. Good. Yeah.
That's a big change.
Yeah, it's happening.
But
so here's an
this is where
example
they're
where
not.
they treated within their fence line.
yeah, and that's just silly.
Yeah.
Right,
It's
it's
gonna
gonna
come right back
back
over.
through. You can see
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
shoots coming out.
Right. So yeah, I would have that conversation with them. Of just treat the whole stand, or you're just making more work for yourself in the long run.
Yeah. Yeah, that's back on the other side. So, and then as for the small bits of invasives kind of growing along, this is like the multiflora. This is multiflora growing into the site. I think these infestations could probably be tackled pretty quickly. And they're not as prolific as knotweed, but they should attend to them soon.
Yeah.
Probably next season at this point, but.
Yep.
Are they still asking for the certificate of compliance? Have they accepted the fate?
I communicated what the commission said last meeting, that a CFC is not going to be issued until the invasives have been, until they're in compliance with their order, which is managing the invasives. Yeah. Good. Right. That's all I got for enforcement actions.
Okay.
I should really go back to B and A and B and try to get some movement on those.
476 East Street is, which one is that? Is that the stream buffer? Yeah, that's the weird property line skinny. Okay. Yeah.
And really what the commission is looking for there is just a few trees to survive long enough that we feel good that they will eventually shade out that stream.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right. We'll get there. And I really don't know about that first one, just getting the galls into compliance on that.
Right. That's one where we haven't really even made contact in a meaningful way, right?
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Open space updates.
So I'll just let the commission know that I think next meeting, November 10th, will be a bigger discussion on Borkowski parcel. I have New England Mountain Bike Association flagged a potential climbing trail. So the building of a new mountain bike trail in the parcel. And they're ready to bring it to the commission and to discuss it. And we'll open it up to the public who've been interested in staying informed on discussions there. And we'll talk about how we want to proceed with the natural heritage application. We really never got any contact from natural heritage around the pre-filing process. So we're gonna move forward with an actual application.
Great. And we're specifically not talking about that in more detail to give the public enough advance warning so that folks who want to be here can be there.
Yeah.
Update on our sign?
Yeah, our update on our sign. Okay, so this is what we've got for the drop down. Does it look like how we want it to look?
I like it.
I think those icons are nice and they work for me.
Did you like the bike on the mountain?
I do, yeah. I do. I like it. Are the intent is to have the words also?
I think we could go either way. What do you guys think?
How do we have a scoop your poop?
Yeah.
Like poop going into a bag.
You just have a strategically located bag,
Right.
Did we talk about trying to come up with a carry in, carry out symbol?
Yeah,
We did. I don't think we got anywhere with it.
Okay. I guess my inclination would be no words to let the symbols do the work, and then we don't have to worry about multiple languages or anything like that. It just feels a little more inclusive, maybe.
Great.
Yeah, so
Sounds good.
is this a piece that's hanging?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is like our
little sketch.
I know. This is our little. And I did get confirmation from Al that he has a post or two posts for to donate to this, and that they can provide some volunteer labor to install it. Great.
And these are wood.
They're HDU, high density urethane.
Oh, okay.
So they'll last a while.
That is the hope, that they will last a long time. Yeah. Okay, I'll request that carry in, carry out symbol and no words.
I think so. Do people like the no words?
I think that's very clear.
Universe.
Nice. And I did do some research on Julia Joy. I didn't get anywhere.
I didn't get very far either.
Yeah. I did find she's like related. She's like a DAR family. And so somebody traced her lineage going way back to England, along with like tons of other people. It was like a PDF of a book about like all the different, the Joy family, or perhaps it was actually her husband that went back, but there wasn't anything either particularly positive or incriminating in there. So I think it's really, I didn't get any information about how she came to this land. I tried to see if she had any descendants that were in the area, and I couldn't find anything. I did like ancestry.com and found some descendants sporadic, like spread across the country, but didn't find anyone based in Easthampton.
Can we just
So-
say Joy Forest? And if anyone complains, we'll just say, well, it's about Joy, it's not about her.
We like that. So that's one option, Joy Forest. We have Joy Woods.
Oh, yeah.
Remember, Dan thought that forest was pretentious.
Oh.
We don't have to. I thought we could just.
If we're gonna use her name, I feel like we should use the first name also. Partly because people aren't gonna know that it's somebody's name if we do it this way. And also, I'm not sure if we have any, no, we have the Ruth. Who's the Ruth? Catherine Ruth. I was gonna say, I'm not sure if we have any areas named after women, so it would be kind of nice to have her name in there, but we do have the Catherine Ruth.
That's
Julia Joy Woods. And then we also were thinking we could do something with Oliver Street.
Yeah, Oliver Street Woods.
things everybody knows. Oliver Street.
They might know how
So
to get to it.
Yeah, it's a lot more self-evident where it's gonna be. It's true. If somebody's like, oh, we're gonna meet at the Oliver Street Woods for a hike,
It's true. It's
you
true.
know where to go. Or at least you'll get 9/10 of the way there and then you'll look around.
And then you'll find it.
And then you'll see our sign.
It's so true. You'll see our sign. Any other options?
I like the sound of the Julia Joy Woods, but the Oliver Street is definitely more practical for directing people. And I like this one too.
Yeah. I mean, it's cool that she did that in 1902, that she donated 20 acres to the city, or to
Yeah.
the town at the time. Like,
But I will say, like, whenever I'm like, oh, you meet at Edward Dwyer Conservation Area, people are like, where's that? I don't know where that is. I don't know how to get there. So this name does not tell you anything about.
right. Doesn't tell you anything about your location.
So you couldn't do Julia Joy Woods and then underneath Oliver.
Too much. I think too much.
Yeah, one name.
Too much.
Gotta commit.
Other things about the parcel, if you guys haven't been there yet, like there's a lot of pine trees, something, I don't know, we could get creative, Pine Hollow, Pine Hill, something like that. And there's a lot of lady slippers is kind of my other notable characteristic with it, but we thought we would stray from a term with that.
Yeah. Oliver Street Pines.
Oliver Street Pines, that's true. And then it's across from the brush dump.
The brush up Woods.
It's funny, I was talking about that. Somebody went, oh, by the brush dump. And I'm like, yeah, that's,
Totally.
that's,
Yeah. Landfill. At landfill, when that landfill put solar on, when the city put solar on that landfill back in 2013, I was researching our landfill the other day, and that got a big splash.
Yeah.
So it was like an
That's a big
early
deal
like
back then.
solar on landfills. Yeah. Any other suggestions?
Any of them are fine. I guess if I was just to pick by myself, I would pick Oliver Street Pines. If I knew that Julia Joy was like some really awesome person, I would vote for that instead. But I don't know. We don't really know much about her.
so we have no way to include in some fashion that she donated back in the 1900s.
Well, maybe we'll
No,
make a
that's fine.
kiosk at some point.
We can put it on our website.
Sure, we can. Yeah.
If we can still point to her in some fashion, then I would go with an Oliver Street name, only because everyone knows.
Hal, do you have an opinion?
I think Oliver Street is preferable just from the perspective of people who know where it is.
Mhm.
But I mean, I like the idea of recognizing the donor, but if there's, another way of attacking that, let's do it. I can live with either, really. I mean, I don't feel strongly.
Ava?
I don't have a strong preference.
You have to bring
Any
them.
I guess when I tell people, like when I talk about this parcel, I call it by Oliver Street, but I think it was said earlier that like whatever we call it by now,
Yeah.
once it's on a sign, it'll catch on eventually,
Right.
you know. We'll see how long it takes for the cyclists who currently call it solar.
Yeah, they're gonna call it whatever they're gonna call it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the woods.
You like woods, Oliver Street woods?
Or Julia Joy woods.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I also like woods.
I like woods.
It is woods.
They would get part of it.
It sounds like we're leaning Oliver Street Woods.
Oliver Street woods?
Yeah.
Great,
Quick
awesome,
wedding.
awesome. You know what? You can pronounce it, which I feel like between Vestina and Borkowski, like, no disrespect meant to any of those fabulous names. But all right, excellent. Oliver Street Woods.
All right.
Okay, so that means that I think we're good to go. We've got our sign. We've got our name. Do we want to wait to try to squish a carry in, carry out symbol on this? We'll remove the words.
I think removing the words is simple. We don't need to see that again. I don't know, how do people feel about the need? I mean, it's kind of, I think all of our conservation areas are supposed to be carry in, carry out. So I don't know how you symbolize that, but
Is there a way
it's probably
to,
worth communicating.
is there a way to combine the dirt bikes, the ATVs within the circle? Like ATV on the top and dirt bikes on the bottom, and then that last square, we can have the carry in, carry out. Or no motorized vehicles.
We're not gonna have the words, so they're not
No.
gonna know that.
It does seem like the carry and carry out is typically just a little trash can with a slash through it. There's no trash can.
That might, for some people, just be an
not
image
sure that-
of litter.
I'm not sure that really conveys.
Yeah.
What about like a leave no trace symbol? That's not really what we're saying though, because you're allowed to ride. You're gonna leave. Well, I don't know.
Leave no trace has a little motto or a little logo, but it doesn't really do what we want it to.
Oh yeah, if you don't know what that means.
How about this little guy?
Which one?
This little man dropping things with a slash through.
But don't be a little man dropping.
I'm not sure that really though. If you don't have any words,
Yeah. I mean, I think I guess the like don't throw stuff on the ground, no littering, but that should we would like to imagine that that's a given anywhere in the city, not just on our trails. Maybe we don't need it. Maybe we stick to the activities more than the rules. That could
Good
be a
idea.
useful distinction.
yeah. As we think about these for future
Yeah.
ones,
Because don't leave your dog poop laying around. Don't leave trash. Like those should just be basic common decency for anywhere you are in the city. Whereas you're allowed to do this activity here, you're not allowed to do that activity here. Different conversation.
more specific. Just
I mean, I
specific
think we think it's common decency, but not a lot of people.
I'm not saying that we don't post rules at the kiosk once we have a kiosk, but
Oh,
it's just a different conversation than what these are trying to communicate.
kind of amazing nobody has come up with a better image than the trash can. Lack of creativity.
So I'm getting a sense that we're ready to move forward.
So,
I think so.
Great. Should we get ourselves a sign?
yeah.
So fun. Okay, awesome.
So Ava, these
even though it's not wood, there's still gonna be textured recessed, right?
They're carved. Yeah.
Okay,
Exactly.
great.
Yeah.
Cool. Just
Yeah.
wanna make sure I understood that.
Yeah, I think they're gonna look really nice. And you know, it's just our pilot one. So if we really don't like how they come out, we can reconsider as we put together a larger project.
Yeah, sounds good. Great, let's do it.
Awesome. Okay.
All right, compliance updates.
Yeah, what do I have for you guys? Let's see. Mm, mm, mm. Well, I'll say that, so Allen Street, I think you all received the invitation to the post-construction meeting. It is on, I think it's on Wednesday. Oh yeah, you want me to give you a number? I think we're at
Allen Street was Thursday.
Thursday,
And
right?
thank you.
So they've requested, a post-con meeting. I have the as-built. I thought just because we have it already, we could take a look at it, knowing that they're probably coming for the COC at the next meeting.
I'm sorry, which project is it?
Yeah, this is Allen Street. So this is Easthampton Housing Authority built a new parking lot and a garage 4-bay situation. And then they have, but primarily they took a little sliver of woods and they turned it into a parking lot. And the Brickyard Brook back here is what constitutes is their overflow. They have an overflow pipe for their basin that comes out here. And so that's what constitutes the commission's jurisdiction here. And
Any substantive changes from the plan?
I didn't see any, no.
Okay, good.
Yeah, it looked good. They did it fast. Yeah. And I did go out there because I had the right opportunity post rain to take a look. Let me get out that. I went out like 65 hours at the end of my week last week. And their basin was dry,
Great.
which I was like,
Fantastic.
huge. But yeah, their basin looked good. It's growing in, still got some bare patches, but it's growing in. Okay. But I'll do a closer look at the post-construction site visit.
Yeah, and there were shrubs and this was more of a rain garden-y mix, right?
Yes, I
Okay.
believe that's the case.
So it may take a little time to really get established.
Yeah. It's called a bioretention area.
Okay.
And yeah, we got the letter saying that it's in substantial compliance.
Good. COC. Great.
Coming all the way down to U35 Pleasant. The construction reports have started coming in, so they're going. And they've been submitting their reports, and I just thought I would show the photos. And then that's the back of the garage there. Oh no. Well, everything looks good so far. Good. So just highlighting that they're getting going. Okay. Coming all the way down to Hartnett Manhan under W. We got our Q3 update. They've been great about reporting their quarterly updates. So this was what the update was. And I noticed this when I came in the summer that the natural oak regeneration was looking really strong. There were like tons of little oak seedlings. So I think it's, I guess, a moment for the commission to just note that I think from my perspective, if they stabilize the site with a tree that they didn't plant, it's okay. Like we weren't attached to sycamores here.
Yeah. Mhm.
We just wanted it not to be bare.
Mhm.
Great. I'm really pleased it worked,
Yeah.
which I felt like I didn't necessarily know that it was going to,
Yeah.
that it was gonna, that they were gonna successfully be able to keep people out of
Yeah.
there, that they were gonna change historic usage of it.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's good.
but it's good.
And they've been great partners.
They have fun. Yeah. Great. That's all I have for you on compliance updates.
All right. I think do we have 2 sets of minutes or just the one?
Yeah, 2 sets.
Okay. So minutes from 9:15 and 9:29. Have folks had a chance to review those if they want to?
Yeah. They look good.
So I move that we accept the minutes of September 15th and September 29th.
All those in favor? So moved. Great. Ava, any updates on how the wetlands ordinance is moving through council review and all of that?
No, so right. So I think the next step is actually is on me to get that
Right.
to get that cover letter
Yeah.
to you all. And now that we're finally through that like slew of hearings we had throughout this construction season, it's really moving to the top of my priority list.
Okay.
So I'm hoping I'll have the cover letter for you all to begin reviewing it. So our plan is for there to be essentially like, you'll have a table that contrasts our ordinance and the Wetlands Protection Act that adds the additional resource area protections and performance standards under that, as well as like about a page of why this ordinance and why now, like why it's important for Easthampton at this particular moment in our environmental protection history. And then the hope was too that I would do a site analysis, that I would pick a site we've permitted that maybe has some resource areas that we weren't protecting under the Wetlands Protection Act, that would have increased protections, a previously done site.
Yes.
And I would be able to highlight those resource areas for the commission. So that packet, along with the actual text of the ordinance, which I'm really hoping you all will get a chance to really review in full, because I think there's a lot in there, and there's definitely still some things that I'm sure we'll snag on, will need to be clarified. The phrasing will need to be reworked. And it's not that scary. It's only 30 pages. So
Sounds good.
I'm hoping I'll have that for you next meeting.
Okay, great.
The only other thing I have for you that didn't make it on the agenda is I got this today from DEP that they're having a Mass DEP Western Regional Office listening session for staffers and commissioners. To be vague. Our goal is to bring together local stakeholders to share insights, discuss common challenges, and explore opportunities for collaboration. I'm wondering if we can actually submit provide updates on specific topics of interest upon request.
Would you reach out and try to find out more about this for us? And
Yep.
It's before our next meeting, so if you could just email us and let us know if you have any sense of what we're actually planning.
Is it in person or?
No, it's virtual. Yep. I mean, I wonder
if it's related to some of the proposed changes.
I was wondering if it's about Mass Ready, but
Yeah.
I'm not really sure why they didn't just want to say that.
Mhm.
Maybe there's something political going on in state house that we're not aware of. But I'm happy to just give Mark a call
Yeah.
and say like, what's this about? And I think if they are actually just like looking for us to suggest topics for them to give us updates on, like I would like to know if they have a draft set of regulation changes as empowered by Mass Ready.
Yep.
Yeah.
Should Mass Ready go through, which I actually frankly don't have an update on. I don't know where that bill stands.
Do you have this in our documents?
I will link it, yeah. We don't have any information other than, like, we don't have a link or anything yet. So I'll keep you appraised.
Okay.
And I'll let you guys know if it's worth it for you to come.
Kind of funny. I wonder if they realized that they didn't send VHAB to log on. Because it doesn't say like save the date, right? Like it's meant to be the.
Yeah,
I wonder if they know they didn't send it.
Yeah, there's like no.
I don't think they realized that they didn't send VHAB to join information.
it's odd, isn't it?
Yeah.
But do you think they realized they didn't give any relevant information about what the meeting's going to be about?
Yes.
That was intentional.
I don't know.
All right. That's all I
Wait
have for
find
you.
out.
Yeah, I'll email you guys what I find out.
Great. All right. I think that's it. Unless anybody else has anything.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor?
Uh,
So moved. It is 7:35. We are concluding this evening's meeting of the Easthampton Conservation Commission, and our next meeting will be on November 10th at 6 p.m. And that is back to our normal week, correct? Okay. Great. Thank you, everyone.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.